And we have folks, I want you to let me know where you're from. I'm Richard Dolan. If you don't know me by now, the CEO of the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. I'm here with our very dear friend, Frank Stronach, the founder, the man whose principles, his life and legacy, the school is built on. Delighted to have you here. We're live streaming over here. Good to see you guys. What's happening there? Happy Passion. Good to see you, Javon. It's great to have you all joining us live here on an Instagram afternoon. What's up, Nicole? Good to see you. It's good to see you, Jake, Lisa. What's up, Jeffrey? Jefferson. You don't want to call you Jeff and Jefferson. I'm going to call you Mr. Jeff Jefferson. Good to see you, Ali Coulter. Good to see you, Ivana Cesar. It's good to see you, Cher. Great to see you, Ali. So we have lots of folks here. If you're in the chat room right now as we're about to get started, we want to know where you're from. We're here currently in Aurora, Ontario. Where are you from? Put it in the chat room. I want to see where you are. What's up, Raghu? I see you're from Ray. I want to see, oh my goodness, we've got Pickering, Ancaster. We've got Abbotsford, BC. We have Oshawa, Ajax. We have Toronto in the house, the 6 in the house. Where are you from? Sounds like Lois Brown's from Newmarket. Good to see you. Mark Bukowski. He was also saying here, Frank, he is part of Mercantile Mergers and Acquisitions in Toronto. He says, we love you, Frank. You should know that. Good to hear that, Mark. And he's telling me telepathically he loves you too, just so you know. We got Nick Horn in from Ottawa. Paulo, what's up, Paulo D'Angelo? You guys had lunch with Paulo D'Angelo, and he's in from Montreal. Good to have Montreal in the house. Monica Chen in from Toronto. Elena, good to see you. Good morning to you as well. Local from Aurora. Looking at our production manager here, the lovely Ivana. Also head of production over there, Stephen. Good to have Aaron in the house as well. Naj from Markham. That's where I grew up, Frank. That's where we met. That's where our love first started.
Okay.
You were my mentor. Yes, yes. Vanessa from Tottenham. We've got Ottawa, Newmarket, Wellington, Brad Harris. We've got lots of people. What's up, Robert Walker from Nanaimo, BC? He's up early this morning to join us on our live. Well, we're going to get started. Oh, hold on. We've got Tatiana in from Austria and Eric from Newmarket. We have so much great people here. Welcome, folks. We're going to get started because we want to be on time and make sure you get to your day. For the Instagram Live friends, we're continuing to stream live. I'm here with Frank Stronach, the man, the myth, the legend, the iconic businessman in Canada, founder of Magna International, at one point, one of the largest businesses on the planet. At your peak, Frank, you employed over 185,000 human beings. I can't keep track of 6 neighbors or 5 family members. You somehow had nearly 250,000 people on payroll, generating billions of dollars in revenues. You know a thing or two about being in business, do you not?
I hope so.
That's exactly what our listeners want to hear. But we're here today for one specific reason, and that's to get started in introducing you softly to a thing we've come to call the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. Now, the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship is all about one thing. It's about you starting businesses, scaling businesses, or growing more successful in business, and not just any ordinary way, not just the great Canadian way, but the Frank Stronach way. Frank, how would you describe your thinking when it comes to starting, growing, and building a business? How would you describe it for our friends and our followers?
Well, it's based upon that you observe the economy, and if the economy doesn't work, then nothing else will work, right? So there's always a reason and for everything.
And I love that you said that, because for a lot of people that are tuning in, and I want to make sure that as you are tuning in to all of our channels, whether here live streaming or here in Instagram world, we're talking to business owners. And some of these business owners have been in business for some time or just got the time to do so. We have people who are just newly arriving Canadians, graduating from school, and they're all being powerfully confronted by one irrefutable fact. Frank, it's hard. It's harder now than ever before to be in business. No thanks to the Trump administration with the tariff wars continuing. No thanks to the economic turmoil that the world is going through. No thanks to the geopolitical events unfolding from wars and issues and concerns. That the tide seems to be high and the underbelly of this seems to be heavy. Frank, how do you think we should start helping entrepreneurs in Canada become economically free again?
Well, to to do the right thing and to think about the right thing, and you gotta look at be aware of many situations, and so you zero in what you think might be suitable where you could grow a business. The first thing you might do, if you have a small business and you want to grow, to work to a department store, right?
Mm.
Because when I look back for the last 20, 30, 40 years, if there was a building going up, it wasn't a factory, it was a warehouse, right? So when you walk through a warehouse, you could say, gee, I could make that, right? And build a factory and make a product, right?
Well, here's what I love about our live stream, folks. If you're just joining us, it's Richard Dolan, Frank Stronach, a legend in the most iconic of ways, a billionaire who achieved incredible success levels, not just as an employer, not just as an innovator, but more importantly, as a business owner. Now, you might be asking yourself, why have I tuned in? Why does this matter? And why should I pay attention more? Here's one reason. Who are you looking up to or modeling yourself after to grow your business, get it started, or scale it in a greater way? I have to admit, as a business owner myself, and now the CEO of the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, we need to understand one thing. We need to make sure that you're modeling yourself after those who've done it well. And who else to ask for some insight and mentorship other than Frank Stronach? Frank, how important is mentorship? And before you answer, I do want to remind you folks, on this stream live, even in Instagram land, you're welcome to put your questions in the queue. Just right down there, that's right down there, you'll see Q&A. You want to make sure that you, in fact, get yourself in the chat room, ask your question, and I promise you, we'll do the best we can to have Frank Stronach himself, that's right, answer that question. So place your question down there. We'll know who it's coming from. And I've got our team here, from Cynthia to Aaron to the lovely Ivana and the most powerful man on the planet, our friend Stephen, who will sort through those questions and make sure they're in the queue. So ready your questions, because Frank's going to answer them. Now back to you, Frank. How would you respond to that statement when it comes to understanding the importance of a role model that's already done it, been there, and has had that? Why is that important for you to be a man who is a living demonstration of having achieved it to now teach it?
Well, when you look back in history, we always had wise counsels. Okay, and there is no more wise counsels, right? So, and then I think if you be somewhat smart, right, you look at people which have been successful. How come they were successful? What did they do, right? So you try to look backwards to learn from history, and to try to look forward. Which way, what is the right thing to do?
I love that he said that, especially if I'm a father, Frank, you're a father, you're a grandfather. And if you've got children, right, Cynthia or you, Ivana, or Aaron and Steve, Steve's got another one on the way. I mean, folks on Instagram, you understand this. If you have a child and they want to learn how to play hockey, you don't have them model the worst player in the NHL's history. You have them model the best, Wayne Gretzky. If you want your child to learn how to play golf, you don't have them watching someone who's got a handicap of 100, like me. You have them model themselves after Tiger Woods. Now that makes sense. Now notice I'm not Tiger Woods and neither is Frank, but Frank is the Wayne Gretzky of business. He's the Tiger Woods of getting a business.
I would say in golf, it's Ernie Els.
He's Ernie Els of okay. Golf. Did you guys get that in Instagram land?
Well, they both are good, right?
So
you got to be aware. One might be very busy. If you want to have some mentorship, you might get to some, and then maybe get some time allocated.
I love that. So models matter. If you're writing down notes and following this, because you're turning this not into a viewing opportunity, but a learning opportunity, write that down. Models matter. People who've been there, done that is important. That's why at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, you have the opportunity of being mentored and getting to model the man himself. Now, moving along, you have to ask yourself, where's the thinking then behind such a businessman? Now, something interesting about you, 28 years ago, Frank, you authored, not out of intuition, but out of experience, this thing we've come to call the fair enterprise philosophy. Now, fair enterprise was really your response to seeing and understanding that the workers deserved a piece of the economic pie. It wasn't about you just becoming rich, it was about everyone growing rich and wealthier together. What inspired you to write the fair enterprise line of thinking?
Well, what inspired me is when we're young, we all hustle a bit to make some money so that we can live in dignity and support the family. And when you get older, you lean back a bit and say, what's life all about, right? Can you, and it's important that you have a purpose, right? And my purpose is I would like to see Canada the first country in the world with an economic charter of rights. So that's my mission.
And I got to say, this is so powerful of what he's saying here, friends. If you're just joining us live, I'm Richard Dolan. This is Frank Stronach, legend, titan, industry leader, Canadian billionaire who was the success story, what we came to call the Magna Man. If you've not read this book, I strongly urge you go to Amazon.ca and buy that book. And you'll learn more about who he is, what he's done, and where he came from. But as we talk about Magna's success at its epicenter in its way of thinking, we've talked about fair enterprise. Now, when we think about fair enterprise, it has various elements. Now, society being one, labor, government, management, and capital, these are some of the orbiting conversations that make up fair enterprise. Would you agree, Frank?
Yes, I would agree. But look, society came a long way. When we look back in history, well, we had the caveman, we had the hunter and the hunted, and we had the kings and the servants. And now we have an environment, what we have bosses and unhappy workers, right? So we got the reason I done well is I treated the workers as partners, right? And this is what fair enterprise is all about. Your workers are partners, not servants.
Oh, I love that. Did you guys catch that? Did you guys catch that in Instagram land? I want to take a look and see who's in here. What's up, faculty band? Good to see you there, Gucci. It's good to see Ali Cater still with us. It's good to see you later. Nicole, Gary, Barreau, Veronica. It's so lovely to have you all here. I will say this though, Frank, when you start to notice how your thinking led to a business philosophy, the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship is really taking that business philosophy and making it available to everybody of any shape or size in business. Is that important to you?
Well, it's very important because you basically, I'm saying, small business has always been the backbone of a country, but nowadays small businesses start up in red tape and thereby it can't work, and thereby the economy will suffer. So we gotta look at what's holding back business.
No, I love that. I just want to turn to the iPad here because we've got so many great people that are joining us. I started noticing some really great statements. I want to say Mark Borkowski said, "No guts, Frank, no glory." I love that statement. I like that Brad Harris said, "The economy in Canada doesn't work. It's bad politics." I mean, we are starting to notice there's a real converging consensus that folks are in agreement with you. I mean, everyone from where there's another commentary. I just want to find it because it's really important to me. Here we go. Adong Wu, let's magnetize the dynamic Canadian economy. Common sense for everyone's interest, Frank. What do you say to some of these comments, the sentiment that you're sensing from our fellow Canadians?
Well, I like the statement to magnetize.
Magnetize. Did you hear that, Adong? We're going to magnetize. That's on you.
Because I created Magna, and it was very successful, and I like the experiences I accumulated, and to know I would like to roll that over to the Canadian younger generation, right? Because Canada is such a great country, but the economy doesn't work, so we should. I dare say that all the signs there that the economy doesn't work, right? I still remember about 50 years ago when the first computers came on the market, the slogan was, if you got one of those computers, you could eliminate a total office floor. Now, when I look around in Europe or in the United States or Canada and the cities, I see at least 20 times more office buildings. Okay, what we do in the office buildings? They don't make products in there. It's regulations, regulations, regulations. So we have more regulators now than workers, right? And that's a very strong sign that there's a big recession coming up. So can we do something? Can we prevent? Can we make it? So that's where we got to talk about it and see that we could temper the recession and still maybe get the business started.
You know, it's interesting, and I'd love to add that a part of your fair enterprise thinking and philosophy includes labor. You know, as my son who's 18, and I think a lot of our friends who are listening and watching, I'd love to see if you'd have a comment or would agree by giving me a thumbs up or just give me some heart, giving me some love so we know we're on the right track, is AI, artificial intelligence, Frank, where it's a sentiment where people think that that's going to be a great disruptor. But I would say that 99% of it might do the thinking, but that 1% is execution. We still have to work. We still have to connect the dots. We still have to be in action. We still need to be in traction. We've lost contact with the good old foundational fundamentals of being in business. What would you say to that?
Well, let me point out a few things.
Please.
All politicians, all business people, pretty well all people agree if the economy doesn't work, nothing else will work. If the economy doesn't work, you cannot feed the hungry. You cannot look after the most fragile people, the elderly people, the sick and the handicapped, right? But funny enough, right, or serious enough, we don't talk about the economy. Okay, it's the economy, the economy, the economy. What drives the economy? We don't talk about this. The most important subject. The economy is driven by three forces: smart managers, hardworking employees, and investors. The message I want to get across loud and clear is, without workers, you can't make a profit. So for God's sake, you know, let's create a system where we let workers can participate, right, in making products.
You know, this was such a profound thought that was shared by our very own Frank Stronach. Please go into the comment section for a moment. Let me know by identifying yourself if you're a business owner, an employer, someone who's got employees, whether just 1, 2, 5, and they're all friends or family on the payroll. I want to know, because what Frank's speaking to is the importance of really, truly reimagining and reinforcing and recreating today's entrepreneur. Let's take a look, Frank. Because I know right now, Philip Stewart agrees. He says, 100% Frank, no job, no house. I agree with you, my friend. I mean, we have MoMA that says, hi, Frank. Oh, well, that's a question, actually. We'll get back to you in a moment, MoMA. I love that Brad said AI will bring transparency to the legal system. Verified AI is the solution to being legally bullied. We agree. Alan says, yes, the economy is being weighted down, Frank, by government, largest, and burdensome tax system. Now, you've got lots of opinions about the tax system. And I think just the other day, you mentioned to me that the economy can begin to work if we eliminate debt, reduce taxes, and remove the red tape. What do you say to our friend right here, Alan Scantland, around, yes, the economy is being weighted down by government and its most largest tax system? What would you say, Frank?
Well, look, I can work in a factory and I don't have to look at the books, the financial books. I can tell if the factory makes monies or loses monies. And if I see more people in the offices and less people on the factory floor, I know that company will not make any monies.
Well, I mean, and you know what, Fadia Habib, you agree. She's a business owner. Big shout out to you right here from the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. You know, we have Naj, business owner with 18 employees. They're listening. It says here that Frank is always accurate like a Swiss watch. Have you ever been called a Swiss watch?
Well, I worked in Switzerland for a while, and I think I learned something there.
Well, that was for you, Stefan. He liked your statement and clearly Swiss-esque observation. It says here that Alan Scantland said, I do taxes for a good cross-section of Canadians, and for small proprietorships, it is too complex for most of them. For small corporations, it is incredibly expensive and overly complex. And I mean, Irina agrees as a business owner, etc. Vienna, good to see you. I know you're here. So Frank, for all these small businesses, you look at your life at 93 years young and you say, there's more work to do. After an incredible life, after providing immense leadership, not just in business and in industry, but even politics. I mean, you're not just an auto part manufacturer. You're in the agriculture business, the sporting business, the thoroughbred business, the racetrack business, the real estate business. Some people would think at 93, why don't you just hang out in a Speedo on a beach somewhere and golf all day, right? Obviously not golfing in a Speedo because that's just, I think, inappropriate. But with all kidding aside, why do you feel so compelled to teach people at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship?
Well,
why? Tell us.
Okay, as you do fitness, as you run, etc., you got your brain has to be active, right? So the more you have to think about it, the more muscles you build up in your brain.
So in other words, this is just another fitness routine of
It's
imparting
it's
knowledge.
a fitness routine. No, but seriously, I think the key is they have a purpose, right? That's amazing. When there might be smaller things, smaller purposes, right? And the great thing about it is when you do well in business, you could look at the greater scene, right? And have greater input to bring about changes, right? What we're really talking about is, I'm saying, the human charter of rights alone is not sufficient. We have to support it with an economic charter of rights. Economic charters of rights will lead to economic democracies, and economic democracies are the basis for democracy itself. Without economic democracy, you cannot really have a democracy, right? So when we take a look, what do I mean by that, right? I'm saying, well, if you're not economically free, you're not really a free person. And it's a shame when we look in Canada or in the United States that only a very small percentage is economically free. Okay, so that's a strong statement to make, but I would like to point out there should be minimum standards where we define economic freedom. Economic freedom, I would define the minimum standards would be if a Canadian woman or a Canadian man has worked for 30 years, they should have accumulated that they own their own house or condo, mortgage-free, and should have at least $300,000 in the bank to subsidize their old age pension so they can choose in their later years their own road to happiness. And that should be easily achievable, right? Yes, I would see at least 2/3 of Canadians could be economically free. Naturally, we got to have a system. It doesn't come by itself. You got to work a bit, you got to be alert a bit, but we need a school system which would promote that kind of approach, right? Okay, but then the final analysis, let everybody be. I left the Beatles their songs, let it be, let it be, let it be, let everybody be, let me be too. So that means, the main thing is you should not be a sort of sucking on the social system, right? If you be healthy, you should be proud. You should think, look, can I make a contribution to the social system, right? Because there are some people are handicapped, right? And we got to look after those. And via nature, sometimes as a kid you climb up a tree, you fall down, and maybe you're damaged a little bit. So we have a society can only be measured. How do people, how do we look after people which can't look after themselves, right? So that's a very important thing.
I like that a lot, especially when as you've got a baby boomer turning 75 every 7 seconds in North America. But let's go back to our friends right now, because there's a lot of things being said. And before I get into it, I want to make sure I unpack a little bit of what you shared, because you said a lot just now. If you're following us, I'm Richard Dolan. This is Frank Stronach. We're talking about the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. If you're on this call, it's because you're a business owner who's just getting started, well on their way, or wish to scale the Stronach way. As you've been listening, though, especially in the past 3 or 5 minutes, you're starting to learn a little bit of what's behind Frank's thinking, philosophically, existentially, ontologically, dare I say. where you start to really understand what's in the DNA of what's driving his imparting of knowledge, education, and sharing his history and his path so that you don't have to do it the hard way. You can do it, well, the Stronach way. So for all of our friends, what I want you to know is that what you're starting to listen to is some of his ideology, some of his thinking practically. And this is why when you just, if I may, you just released this new book, The Canadian Economic Charter of Rights and Responsibilities. If you want to learn more, just scroll up and you'll notice that the Stronach Academy, our website, is pinned there. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to download a copy of this book, perhaps a short part of it, a chapter, we'd love to try and accommodate. But I want to go to some of the comments people are sharing so far, because there's a lot, Frank, and you should hear some of this. I mean, number one, Monica Chen agrees. We need to simplify the tax act. I mean, we've heard from Vienna saying that they're so excited for being here. We are excited that you are too, Vienna. Thanks for making it. I hear from Vanessa, who says it is certainly a lot harder to get a small business off the ground today than ever before. The state of the economy does not help as the banks are getting tighter for lending, creating larger gaps for people to start their venture, and less people are willing to take a chance on someone. I mean, Frank, in the 50s, when you took a chance on yourself, entrepreneurs feel like they're a little bit in the cold right now. They don't have a way of thinking. They don't have a model to follow. But here at Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, we're going to change that. When we do that, you're also sharing with people a vision for an end game. And if you're writing down notes, I'd start there. Being economically free is one of the deliverables that we want to achieve at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. For about 1 million business, let's say. Is that not something that we want as a goal?
Well, I think that should be easily achievable with the right structures, with the right school system, with the right economic system. It's look, society advanced enormously. We developed a lot of technology, et cetera, right? And yes, we have A1, et cetera, but look, you cannot replace common sense, right? That's the most important thing. You got to apply some common sense.
Yeah.
And yes, A1 is the same as it's a tool like computers have been, but still economic sense is important. And especially when you talk about the economy, about the business, you gotta put some common sense to it. And I have accumulated, I call it a lot of common sense and wisdom. And I think it's important. Life is really a question of, it's an evolutionary process, right? Okay, so life is, if you be at the right place with the right ingredients, lots of things can happen. But look, when I arrived in '54 in Toronto, I had $200 in my pocket. I didn't know anybody. And luckily, I found a job fairly soon. I'm a tool and die maker by trade. I started in a company where there were about 10 people. And after a few months, the owner said, "Frank, you're doing a great job, and I want you to be a partner of mine." My chest swelled a little bit, but he was a nice man, but he didn't write it down. But basically, I said, "There's nothing to run the business," right?
But pause right there. And I'm going to do something I've never done before. And if you're watching, this is important. Most people who get into business for themselves did so for many motivations, but one of them is because they were let down by someone. It sounds to me that that first boss promised something and didn't deliver. And as a result, with a wonderful vote of confidence, you took that confidence and got in business for yourself. Is that true?
Yes, I would say I would learn from that, what happened, right, or from that mistake.
Thank you.
So, but anyway, so I looked in the papers, I found a job, I got paid a lot more. Anyway, 3 years later, in '57, I had $5,000 saved up. And $5,000 in 1957 was a lot of money. You could buy a small house, a small farm. What I did, I rented a small building, bought a few used machines, and out and went hustling. I went in the factories and I said, "I'm very good in solving problems. If I can't solve them, you don't have to pay me." So obviously I solved some problems, because after 1 month I hired somebody. After 1 year, I had 10 people. After 2 years, I had 20 people. And the first evolutionary stage set in my life, right? I noticed my foreman was a little different, was a German fellow by the name called Herman. And so I said, Herman, what's the matter with you lately? Well, he said, Frank, I'm thinking to start my own business. I said, well, Herman, I can sympathize with that, but let's talk tomorrow. Maybe we find a better answer. That evening I was talking to myself and I said to myself, if that foreman's got to leave me, that would stifle my growth. I didn't like that. The next reason I liked even less, if that foreman's got to leave me, I got to do all the work myself. I like that even less, right? And the third reason was if I hire a new foreman and I don't show him how our business is run, I still got to do the work all by myself. And so anyway, to make a long story short, I the next day said to Herman, why don't we start a new factory together? You own 1/3, I own 2/3. Herman said, do you mean it? I said, yes. And so it didn't take long. We had a factory. Guy was working like crazy. He was hustling. He was so proud, right? So what I done over the next few years, I took 6 more formats, right? And I'm reasonable to say what I did with Herman, right? And we had a lot of cash flow. I got then a little more philosophically, and remember days when I was hungry not because I wanted to lose weight. I was hungry. I had no money to buy food. That leaves a very deep impression in your soul, right? So, so I said, gee, if I could get employees involved, right, the same as the manager, I arranged the thinking process started to get different, and the same thing. So I realized I should get from a private company to a public company where it's a lot easier to have employees participating, right? Because you give them you can do profit sharing, etc., etc. But it's a very important thing here that when I got philosophically, how can I get the employees? And I converted the private company to public company. The first year, when I put in the profit sharing, that the employees get 10% of the profits over and above the wages. The first year, our profits climbed 40%. The second year, our profits climbed 100%. The third year, our profits climbed 200%. What I want to point out and transmit is, if you share with employees in a tangible way, you release an energy of untold proportions, okay? Because employees think they're on the front line. They know they get a portion of the profit. So that's the key. That's the message I want to get across.
I like that. I mean, folks, if you're here watching this, you just got a master class on scaling the Stronach way. I mean, I might have to coin the phrase of the Stronach scaling system. I'm going to tell you right now, I have to let my partner Ivana and Steve know that this might be it, but you just got masterclass on how to scale the Stronach way. I mean, going from a small handful of workers to opening up several now factories to going public at some particular point. Isn't this every business owner's dream, to be able to tap into the public markets, find new ways of capitalizing your growth and being able to grow, well, quite frankly, in a very heroic and iconic way, just like Magna did? I mean, I want to go to the comments, Frank, because I want you to gather your thoughts. There's so much great feedback. By the way, are we not loving Frank Stronach right now? Can you put some love down there? I need him to see that. I'm gonna point it to him. I'll just get, these hearts are for you, Frank. Look at these hearts coming up. Look at all these hearts. Come on now, give him some love. This is our 93-year-old role model and mentor of helping you create a great Canadian business. This is for you, Frank. You see those hearts? Those are really, all those are all for you.
Keeps my heart pounding.
See, you keep his heart pounding. Come on, friends.
Pounding.
Okay, this is good. But let me just go to some comments here. I mean, you know, Vanessa, we agree with you. Vienna, we agree with you. When I look at what Alan said, this is such a great ambition as a concept. This is about economic freedoms. I do want to add, friends, at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, what you'll understand is we're inviting you to become a friend of the family. We want you to join by way of membership. If you're just getting started, it'll cost you a few $100s a year. If you've already established a business, it's only a few $100s more. But here's the point. We want to mentor you. We want to have you check in and have Frank Stronach a legendary billionaire businessman be your role model, someone to look up to and lean on so that you can start building your business, as we would dare say, the Stronach way. But as we look at some of these wonderful insights, I love what Alan wrote. In society, mental health has been declining largely because of a lack of hope for prosperity. I mean, he aligns with what you're thinking. Jesse, great ideas. What specifically has to happen to make this utopia a reality? It's action. It's action, Jesse. Become a member, join the conversation. Let's grow this community. Let's grow this movement. This is not my country. This is not Frank Stronach's country. This is our country. And quite frankly, our children's country and their children's country. I mean, to our point, before we go to some questions, are you open to answering some questions directly from our audience?
Of course.
Oh,
that's the whole idea.
I like that idea. And that was his idea, by the way. So you folks, if you've got an idea, you have a question, even a comment, or want to say hello, go down into the section Q&A. Make sure you place it there clearly for our team to put it in the queue. And we'll make sure we get it in front of Frank before we close things off inside the next half hour. But Frank, when you think about economic freedom, I want to maybe start to wind down on this premise. The Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship is really a place, a community of one central conversation, which I believe is about becoming economically free, starting with a business owner who can then scale and become successful a Stronach way. How important do you believe it is for small business owners to become economically free, one at a time, for Canada's future? What would you say to that?
Well, a small business, they're a little different, right? And for the simple reason they took aim to do something, right? And burn down, right? It takes a little courage, right? But basically what I want to bring forward, it doesn't have to, that you need a lot of courage, right? If you apply common sense, there's a lot of things you could do. And they've always said, when you have a small business, you take smaller steps, till you really feel the ground solid, then you take bigger steps, right? So the great thing about the fair enterprise system is, or by people listening. So what we want to transmit are practical experiences, how to build a business, right? And so, as I said early on, you go to the evolutionary stages. So let's say when you have 10 people, you need a different structure than when you have 100 people, right? And when you have 100 people, you need a different structure than you have 1,000 people, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have 1,000 employees, you need a different structure than 10,000, right? Mm-hmm. And when you have got 10,000 employees, you need a different structure than you have 100,000, right? Okay, and when you have 180,000, again, you need different structures. So we can help small businesses like to grow a large business. And we could advise young entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs, people which just sort of finishing universities or high school or academies, that they say, gee, it's not that difficult, to be an entrepreneur, right? Like you save up a little bit, right? So if you lose that, you accumulate experience and you save up a little more, you wait another year, 2 years, and try again, right? So it's not, but don't borrow more than what you have, right? Especially when you start out, right?
I like that.
So it's, take smaller steps, right? When you start out, and when you feel a little more confident, you have more solid numbers, then you take bigger steps.
Wisdom only comes through experience, right, friends? Only comes from the wise, only comes through having been there, done that, and have in fact revered in the highs and of course recovered from the lows, and you've had your fair share of many. I'm going to turn to our producer here, Ivana. I think we have some questions we want to answer. What's the best way in which you want me to get those questions out and being asked of Frank? So I'm going to go into the Q&A now. I keep pressing in the Q&A, but nothing pops up. So I'm going to pass this over. And as we do this, here's what I want to say while we're teeing up the questions, Frank. Folks, we only got about 15 minutes left in this live broadcast. So settle in. The best is yet to come. Ask your question. We will answer it. What I want to make sure I make clear is this: is not only am I the CEO of the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, I too was your student. I was a student who was selective in who I chose to model myself and my business affairs after. And I chose Frank Stronach at that time. We both had a lot more hair back then, full head of hair. And today I get to be not only his friend, but I get to continually get into his tutelage. So, friends, write this down. And you want to be haunted by this question: who's your role model? Who are you modeling yourself after in business? Because in business, we often just want to make ends meet, but we want to meet the end with a vision. And that's the vision of being economically free. So, Frank, let's get to these questions. I'm going to go to Dan Neat. Is it Neto or Nito? So I'm going to say both, and I hope one's correct. All right. So Dan Nito or Dan Neto? And Dan asks, here it comes, Frank. He asks, what should small to medium-sized manufacturers, today be considering and focus on to prepare for the coming 3 years of the economic and political and technological uncertainty? In other words, the future is uncertain. I mean, we see what's going on. What would you say to a small to medium-sized manufacturer today who wants to prepare for what's coming? What would you say to them?
Well, you could have input, let's say, to the system, Okay, so when you be a small business, it's getting tougher and tougher, more and more red tape. So basically, I recommend you, a small business, get together, be a political force. If you love the country, you love your children, the way things are going, there's no future. Right? So it's very important that you got to be a political force. The political system can't fix the economy, right? They may have shown for the last 50 years that the economy got worse and worse and worse and still getting worse. And we don't talk about it, what would drive the economy, right? We got to get employees involved, that they get a portion of the profits, right? That's the only way to get out. But the red tape and the politicians have to be aware that look, if a small business unites, they're a political force. So when you in business or in life, sometimes you look back in the history and say, who would be role models there, right? For me, a role model was Winston Churchill. He was more than a politician. He was a statesman, right? In his later years, Winston Churchill said, Parliament doesn't work. There's only politicians in Parliament. The mandate of a politician is to be elected or re-elected. That means the whole country is managed via political reasons, right? So Winston said, we need a chamber of citizens to balance out the politicians. I'm saying, as time goes on, sometimes you learn by other people, like statesmen, or there you could refine the ideas. I came to the conclusion we could do it. Small businesses could be Canada's way of getting the chamber of citizens, right? Because if small business does well, the whole country do well, right? Because small business, when you look at, they don't make a lot of money, right? So, but they want to grow. So if they want to grow, and so the only way you can grow if you hire one or two employees or buy a new machine. So if the government takes too much away in the business tax, that would stifle. We do the reverse, right?
I like that.
So I want to point out that government would get more in tax revenue if small business hires employees. And employees will pay the wage tax, right? The income tax. And if the entrepreneur, the owner wants to take, usually they only take out very little, just what the family needs to survive, right? And they want to leave the monies in the business and grow, right? So the key is you small business have to band together to get the red tape off, to free you, to get you on a free enterprise course. Because free enterprise, without free enterprise, there's no free society. So that's, but we need some bureaucracy, right?
Yes.
We need some rules.
I agree.
We need rules in regards to the labor, on the labor safety, machines, etc. And you cannot dump poison chemicals in your backyard. We need some rules.
I like that.
Okay, but Canada was quite great 50 years ago or more. Because 50 years ago, when I rented a small building, I put a sign up saying "Dolan Die open for business." I didn't need a permit. I didn't need a permit for years. When I built my first new building in Richmond Hill, I had a set of blueprints. I went to the office there. They looked at the blueprints. They say qualified engineers. They stamped it qualified engineers. Everything's fine. We're happy that you built a building in our city. So and the way I went to the races.
Wow.
But now it's forever. You wait for a permit, right?
I like that.
It's
incredible.
we gotta, but you can only change it. The politics can't do it for you. And I don't point the finger at politics because look, at Magna I had Brian Mulroney, the Prime Minister. I had Bill Davies, Mike Carey. I met a lot of good people, but the politicians are trapped in the system. They can't move.
No, let me interject for a second, because I do agree. I mean, Dan, this is your fault. You've unleashed the dragon. This man's passionate about everything that he's saying. He's passionate about telling you what to do, what not to do. I know my team is right now writing me who's behind this camera. And what I mean by our team, at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, we have a faculty that's actually in this room. And here's what they would also say. We are in complete alignment with what Frank Stronach is saying. And philosophically, we are right behind him. But what they also say, Dan, is that as you look out to the future as a small, medium-sized manufacturer considering making considerable investments, as you know, the geopolitical and the financial uncertainty levels are rising, is do a threat analysis. Take a look at your core business and understand where the landscape is going. Follow the trend lines. Start to Google where the industry is going. Start to notice, measure, and take into account, and perhaps even inventorize what these threats might mean to you, your infrastructure, the architecture, even the market you're in, the product or service that you're providing. One of the things that we do at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship is not only put Frank Stronach in earshot of your questions, that is the benefit of membership, but you can also tap our brain trust, where with Frank's leadership, we're able to tap our brain trust to give you some keener insight to save you some more time. So Dan, great question. Hopefully I'll see you in our membership soon. I'm going to move along here with the limited time we have left, Frank, because we've got a couple more questions. I've been really loving Adong Wu and what she's been saying, but I want to get to Wayne Atwater. He asks a different kind of question. And Wayne, good to have you here. Thanks for hanging out with us. Wayne asks, how do you convince people, Frank? How do you convince people to become a part of profit sharing inside the company? How do you convince them?
Easily. If you profit share, you make more monies.
Well, that was an easy answer.
Because you make it, they think about it, right? If they know they get a portion, they start to think it's a totally different, right? Okay. And so, share the profits and you make more money.
That's a simple answer. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not building a business to survive. You're building a business for us to all thrive. My faculty, our faculty right here also says that when it comes to convincing your team, it's about getting on the same page. This is where we would have you visit the fair enterprise philosophy, understanding that you don't have people working for you, you're working with them. This is all about understanding the shift in ownership mentality, co-owning not only the business you're in, but also the future and the financial riches that are to follow. So that's a great question, and we'll look forward to seeing you in membership, my friend. Adong Wu, I've been a fan of hers. She's been in our comment section a lot. She's been giving us a lot of love and attention. Adong, we appreciate you. So you deserve to get this question answered by Frank. Frank, here we go. She says, when are we building our first Magna electric vehicle car? I rather call it a Stronach car. By the way, we call it Cerit. 100% Purgelsfeld in Canada. We probably can build something better than Tesla, since the North has all the intelligent, talented individuals and abundance of all natural resources. What are we waiting for? Well, I can tee that question up a bit better, because you see, Adong, Frank already had the vision that we are running out of natural resources. to better equip gas-powered vehicles. Electric vehicles are here to stay, and that is the future. But you launched Sarit, a very intelligent electric vehicle. Why don't you share with our friends, especially Adong, what's so special about Sarit?
Okay. The premier called me about 2, 3 years ago, and he said, Frank, the car industry, General Motors is closing. Give me some advice. So I was thinking about it, and I wrote a number of things down, but I had to go downtown. Our head office was north of Toronto, and so when I went down, there was a huge traffic jams. When I looked around, I saw only one driver in the car, right? Maybe 95% of all the cars had one driver, one person in the car, the driver. So I said, what a waste of energy, of human energy and non-renewable energy, the whole thing, yeah, right? Because to be in those traffic jams, the carbon monoxide gases, I mean, it's the medical costs are climbing because for various reasons, right? Okay, so anyway, I went back to the drawing board, back to the workbench, and I said the answer will be a small electric car. We call it micromobility. Micromobility cannot be wider than 3.5 feet and not longer than 7 feet, because you got to be able to park 4 of those in a regular car parking spot, right? Because it's to have a large car. First of all, the grid system isn't quite there, right? It won't. Okay, so small cars would be the thing here, and because large electric cars, you still have traffic jams, right? And it's no fun to be a few hours in, waiting in a traffic jam. So it's small electric cars. I built a new factory. The factory, there's a few little things to be done yet. We got cars off the line, and we're fine tuning it, and hopefully in about 3-4 months, we start be able to sell cars and for the benefit of Canadians.
It's an exciting time for Sarit. It's an exciting time for you.
Sarit stands for safe, affordable, reliable, innovative transit. Again, safe. Sarit stands for safe, affordable, reliable, innovative transit.
And on that note, because Don Ham asks a great question, and Don, good to have you. Thanks for being here. Do you think, he asks, are we seeing the beginning of the end of the auto industry between the tariffs and what's going on and the shift towards electric vehicles? What would you say to Don?
No, I would. When I look down the road, we got to realize there's about 2 billion cars, passenger cars, right, on the road. So when we look at that, it's like the St. Lawrence River flowing down, right? And you don't have to be a great scientist to know you're gonna dry up sooner than later. So when I look down the road, in about 8 years, gasoline will be rationed. But it will be available to trucks, huh? Okay. Because we would need trucks to get the food from the outlying areas, from the faraway areas, to the cities where the food is needed, right? Yeah. So, but for passenger cars, there'll be a no-no.
I like that. I mean, there's so many questions here. I already have record of over another 20 more. I mean, I want to remind all of our participants today that this is precisely the culture of the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. We solicit you for questions. We give you access to Frank. You have the opportunity of asking him questions through a system that we have. But many of the questions that you're asking, Frank's already responded to in his books, whether it be the Magna Man or the Canadian Economic Charter of Rights and Responsibilities. I encourage you to join now the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, so that not only do you equip yourself with that knowledge, you get yourself access to a role model. You get yourself a team of other experts who follow Stronach's systems, thinking, ideology, and philosophy on business, but to apply it. I'll give you an example. Elena, listen to this, Frank, before I let us go. Again, I'm a big fan of Elena because she owns Luda Flower Salon right here in Aurora. So we got to encourage our local business owners. And she says, we have a flower shop in Aurora. The business isn't consistent, great during certain seasons like holidays and such, but rather slow in other times. How do I make business more consistent? Now, some people might say, like Omar, data analysis. But remember, you're in the moving people business, not just moving flowers. So, what our faculty would invite you to do is to really understand, what culture are you creating? What conversation have you catalyzed? What way are you connecting and gamifying the experience of, in fact, working with you? And rather than buying holiday driven flowers, why isn't every Friday a holiday? Celebrating the home, celebrating your bride, celebrating your family. So what we believe at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, it's not just about data, it's about people. And if there's one thing we know about the fair enterprise principle, it wasn't just about government, and it wasn't just about labor and management and capital. It was about putting people first. And I think that's what we believe at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. Frank, would you agree with that statement?
Well, it's always should be people first, right? Okay, because without people, you wouldn't have an economy. If you got poverty, it doesn't work, right? So really what it comes down is we got to see how can we eliminate poverty, right? And I think the important thing to know is the world has always been dominated by the golden rule. The people which have the gold or the money make the rules, but you don't see the kings no more, right? They might be in Hawaii, they might be in Beverly Hills, they might be in Monaco, but
they might be in Aurora.
They might be in Aurora. Well, doubt it, right? Okay, so basically, the very rich don't want to share the profits with the working class, right? And that the white gets bigger and bigger, right? So yes, we need a revolution, not a destructive revolution. We need a revolution of the mind. The revolution of the mind would be an economic charter which points out, look, employees have a moral right to get some of the profits. It's not only if they do get, if it's no, it's fair and it's a level playing field. Their brain activity starts to, there's so much potential in people. It's incredible. It's surprising, but you got to set it free. Don't have it chained up. Don't have the red tape about it. We got to set the thing free. And small business, the country depends on you. You hold the future in your hands, right? Small business is really, you got to band together. The politicians can't do it for you. They're trapped in the system. And I'm not saying that they are bad guys, right? But they're trapped. But look, young politicians, I know many of them, when I get elected, I want to, the older politicians say, you cannot say that. We can't be criticized. We cannot, we won't be reelected. And they say, if the other party gets in, they will do a lot worse than we, right? And that's why they justify that they want to be elected.
Well said, Frank. I mean, it's amazing how fast an hour goes by, and that's all the time we have for today. Are you open to doing this on a regular basis?
I would like to do it on a regular basis.
So you've heard it here first. Friends, I mean, there is so much more to cover, but this conversation, to the latter point that Frank had just made, is not about politics. It's about people. It's about really representing yourself to the purpose and the possibility of being an entrepreneur, and not just to make money, but to make magic for yourself, your family, and for generations to come. To really not just reimagine, but recreate yourself as a business owner, whether just getting started, well on your way, or wishing to scale. We really, truly want to help you here at the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. All you need to do is join. We want you not to join as a member. We want you to join as a fellow family member. We want you to join the conversation. Join the conversation where if you're just getting started, it's $200 a year. If you're well on your way as an entrepreneur because you are large in size and perhaps even vision, it's only $400 a year. And sure, you'll get books and you'll get access to webinars. You'll get access to myself and my incredible team, but you'll have access to the man and the mind that built one of the most iconic businesses our country's history has ever seen, and the world has yet to see again. What do you say? Take a look, hit the link above, check us out at the Stronach Academy, and I promise you, you will start to move the needle in the way in which not only you deserve, your family deserves, and your financial future deserves, but our country needs, starting today. I've been with Frank Stronach on a beautiful live broadcast. Frank, thank you so much for joining me and joining our friends. When they join us, they get the books, they get access to you, and they get to join us in conversations like these frequently. We thank you for that.
Okay, thanks, Richard, and I'm so glad that you accepted. When I made you an offer, be the CEO of this great academy, which will where we change the economy and eliminate the poverty.
Well, as I always say, Frank, it's a pleasure to be in your life, but it's a real honor to be a part of your legacy. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Until next time, friends, we'll join you in a live broadcast. Thank you so much for Stephen, our production lead, our producer, Ivana, Cynthia, who keeps things on the straight and narrow, and Erin, who just joined us, and we sure are glad she did. Until next time, I'm Richard, that's Frank Stronach, and we'll be back with another Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship live.